The morning is cold and gray. The rain has just stopped, and the sidewalks glisten like wet glass. Lainie walks quickly, almost running. Her old shoes splash through the puddles. In her right hand, she holds a battered briefcase tightly. It contains her resume, the only good copies. Today is her interview. Not a dream job, no. A job in customer service at a major retailer. But it means money. Steady, honest money. It's enough for rent, food, and maybe a little left over for Kade's special classes. She can't be late. She's already been late for 2 previous interviews. Once the bus broke down, the other time Kade had a fever. She turns onto a quieter street, lined with tall buildings. It's cleaner here. There's less traffic. Lainie glances at her phone. She has 20 minutes. She can make it if she walks faster. Ahead, she sees a woman. The woman is dressed in a neat, light-colored jacket and is pushing a wheelchair. A little girl is sitting in the wheelchair. The girl is wrapped in a bright pink hooded jacket and has multicolored socks on her feet. They walk slowly. Lainie steps around them, trying not to bump into them. She hears the nanny talking on the phone, her voice worried. Lainie had already walked a few steps past when she heard a sharp sound, something like a scraping sound and a short scream. She turned around. It all happens in seconds, but for Lainie, time stretches out like thick syrup. The nanny bent down to pick up the fallen one. Sock! She let go of the chair arm for a moment. The chair wheel rests on the edge of a wet sewer grate. The girl's bright pink jacket flickers in Lainie's peripheral vision. And then the chair moves. Not much, just a centimeter, but it's enough. The wheel slips off the wet metal grate. The chair jerks sharply to the side. The nanny straightens up, her eyes wide with horror. She reaches out, but her fingers only slide along the plastic back. The chair picks up speed. It rolls down the sloping sidewalk, straight toward the roadway. There are no cars on the road. Lainie can't see them, but she knows they could appear at any second. Around the bend, around the corner. It's a quiet street, but not dead. The little girl's hand, dressed in pink, clutches the armrest. The hood slides down, revealing smooth, dark hair pulled back into a ponytail. The girl doesn't scream. She's frozen, like a bird about to be hit by glass. The nanny makes a piercing sound, not a word, but a pure cry of fear. Lainie isn't thinking. There are no thoughts in her head about the interview, about Kade, about money. There is only this image, a pink spot, inexorably moving away from the sidewalk toward the gray strip of asphalt. Her body reacts before her mind. The briefcase flies from her hand. It lands in a puddle with a dull thud. Lainie is already running. Her shoes slip on the wet stone, but she doesn't fall. She takes 3 huge steps, pushing off with all the strength of her long legs. The chair is already half a meter from the curb. Another second, and it will slide onto the road. Lainie misses the handle. She doesn't make it. Instead, she lunges forward, falling to her knees right in front of the rolling chair. Her hands fly out, catching not on the handle, but on the metal rims of the large wheels. She grips them with all her might. Her palms slip on the wet metal, but her grip is firm. The momentum is strong. The chair pushes her forward. The knees of her pants rub against the asphalt. She hears the fabric tear, but she holds on. Stops the movement. The front right wheel is already hanging over the curb. Another centimeter, and it would have fallen. Silence. For a second, there was absolute silence, broken only by Lainie's heavy breathing. Then came a sound, the distant hum of an engine somewhere in the distance. Lainie looks up. She looks straight into the girl's face. The girl sits frozen. Her large, dark eyes are wide open. There are no tears in them, only a deep, visceral shock. Her small hands still grip the armrests, her knuckles white. Are you okay? Lainie breathes, her voice shaking with adrenaline. It's okay. It's okay, baby. I've got you. She slowly, very slowly, pulls the chair back, a safe distance from the curb. Only when all 4 wheels are back on the sidewalk does she allow herself to relax her grip. Her hands are shaking. The nanny is already there. She's crying, her face twisted in a mixture of horror and relief. She mumbles something in another language, then in broken English. Oh my God. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I dropped it. But Lainie barely hears her, because the girl lets go of the armrest. Her small, warm hand reaches forward cautiously. It doesn't touch Lainie's face or her shoulder. She finds Lainie's hand, still resting on the rim of the wheel, and places her palm on top. Then her fingers grip Lainie's index finger, tightly, as if it were an anchor, the only solid thing in a world that had just turned upside down. The girl's grip is strong, almost painful. Lainie looks at the small hand clutching her finger, then looks up again. "It's over," she says softly to the girl. "You're safe. My name is Lainie. What's your name?" The girl is silent. She doesn't take her piercing, serious gaze from Lainie's face. Her lips are pressed tightly together. She simply looks, studying every feature, every skin tone, every sparkle in Lainie's brown eyes. This isn't the look of a frightened child. This is the look of a very old soul assessing the situation. The nanny finally comes to her senses. She squats down in front of the chair, blocking Lainie's view of the girl. "Mia! Mia, darling, are you hurt? Talk to me!" She pats the girl's cheek, checking her hands. Mia slowly looks away from Lainie and at the nanny. She shakes her head. No, but she still doesn't say a word. "She doesn't talk?" Lainie asks quietly, freeing her hand and standing up. Her knees are burning, her pants are wet and torn. "She does. It's just, sometimes she's silent when she's scared," the nanny answers quickly, and Lainie catches a note of something more than simple concern in her voice. Fear. The nanny is afraid not only for the girl, but for something else as well. She looks around, as if checking to see if anyone has witnessed this scene. "Thank you. Thank you so much. You saved her." Lainie nods, brushing the dirt from her palms onto the dry parts of her pants. She notices her briefcase lying in a puddle. Her heart sinks. Her resume. Her only good suit. She walks over and picks it up. Water is dripping from the leather corner. Everything inside is soaked. She looks at Mew again. The girl is staring at her again. The same quiet, unwavering focus. There's something in her gaze that doesn't let Lainie go. Perhaps gratitude. Perhaps a question. Or perhaps simply an acknowledgement that this unknown woman is the most important person in the world right now. "Do you need help? A ride home?" Lainie asks, even though every cell in her body is screaming that time is running out. "No, no, thank you," the nanny answers too quickly. She's already taking her place behind the chair, her fingers white on her hands. "We're very close. We can handle it. Thanks again." And she begins pushing the chair quickly, almost running in the opposite direction from Lainie. Mia doesn't turn around, but before they disappear around the corner, Lainie sees the girl tilt her head, trying to catch a glimpse of her one last time. Her dark eyes, two deep pools, meet Lainie's for a moment, and then they're gone. Lainie stands alone on the wet sidewalk. The rain has begun to drizzle again, in small, cold needles. She looks at her dirty palms, her torn knees, her battered briefcase. She finally shows up for the interview, 15 minutes late. Her pants are dirty, her jacket is wet, her hair is disheveled from running and the rain. She tries to wipe her face and straighten herself out in the elevator, but it's hopeless. The receptionist looks down at her, her thin eyebrow raising slightly. Lainie feels her cheeks heat up. The hiring manager, a woman in a formal jacket, is polite but cold. She glances at the damp, smudged resume. "You're late, Ms. Jackson," she says without emotion. "I know. I'm sorry. There was an incident on the street." "I see." The woman glances at her lap. "Unfortunately, punctuality and neatness are key requirements for this position. We are seeking a reliable candidate." She asks a couple more formal questions, but everything is already decided. Lainie can see it in her eyes, in the way she avoids direct eye contact. 10 minutes later, Lainie steps outside again. The rain has gotten heavier. She doesn't have a job. She has rent due in a week. She has Kade due from daycare in 3 hours. And she has the image of big, dark eyes staring at her as if they could see right into her soul. The entire bus ride home, she doesn't think about the interview or the bills. She thinks about the grip of those little fingers on hers, so strong, so tenacious, and about the girl's silence. That silence was louder than any scream. She comes into her small, modestly furnished apartment. Silence. Kade is still in kindergarten. She takes off her wet jacket and hangs it on a chair. She puts her briefcase in the sink to drain. She looks at her scraped knees. She feels a strange emptiness. She did something important today, perhaps the most important thing in her life, but the world didn't notice. The world took away her chance and gave her only wet papers and a cold feeling in her bones in return. She makes herself some tea, sits down on a kitchen chair, and looks out the window at the gray sky. And she sees those eyes again. Mia. The girl's name is Mia. The next day, the weather is no better. Lainie is sitting at the kitchen table, browsing through new job postings on an old laptop. Kade is playing with cars on the floor. Numbers are spinning in Lainie's head. Rent, the electric bill, the bill from Kade's speech therapist. Suddenly, a sound comes from outside, unusual for their quiet courtyard, the soft but powerful rumble of engines, not the creaking of an old bus, but something low and smooth. Kade crawls to the window. "Mom, look! Big black cars," he says, pointing. Lainie stands up and looks. Two large black SUVs pull into the courtyard, where broken-down sedans and delivery vans are usually parked. They're silent, spotless, and have tinted windows. They stop right in front of their driveway. Lainie's heart skips a beat. This isn't the mail. This isn't social services. This is something else. Two men emerge from the first car. They are dressed in dark, expensive-looking suits without ties. They don't look like police officers. They glance around, assessing. Then one of them opens the back door of the second car. A man gets out of the car. He's young, about 30, tall, with perfect posture. He's not wearing a suit, but a dark, fine wool turtleneck and black trousers. His face is serious, sculpted and unsmiling. His hair is black, cut short. He looks directly at the window of their apartment, as if he knows he's being watched. Then he says something to one of the men and heads towards the entrance. "Kade, go to your room," Lainie says quietly but firmly. The boy, sensing the tension in her voice, obediently takes the cars and leaves. There's a knock on the door, firm, confident, but not aggressive. Lainie approaches and looks through the peephole. The same man stands right outside the door. His face is close. It seems tired, but his eyes sparkle with a keen, lively intelligence. She slowly opens the door without removing the chain. "Miss Lainie Jackson?" he asks. His voice is low, calm, with a slight, barely perceptible accent. "Yes, it's me. My name is Jongh. You helped my daughter yesterday." "Mia." Lainie is speechless for a moment. She opens the door wider, removing the chain. Jongh nods slightly as he enters. He doesn't look around, doesn't assess the surroundings. His gaze remains on Lainie. The two men remain on the landing, turning into silent shadows at the entrance. "I want to express my deepest gratitude to you," Jongh says. His words sound formal, but there is sincerity in them. "What you did, the nanny told me. You risked your life," Lainie says quietly. She feels awkward in her old lounge clothes, in this modest apartment next to this man who exudes a quiet but undeniable strength. "Many would have simply turned away," he says. Then he takes a thin, thick envelope from his inside pocket. He places it on the kitchen table. "Please accept this as a token of appreciation for your reaction. And for your modesty, you didn't even leave your name. I had to find out about you." Lainie looks at the envelope. She can imagine what's inside. Money. Lots of money. It could solve all her problems. But something wells up inside her. Pride? Caution? She doesn't know. "I can't," she says, her voice firmer than she expected. "I didn't do this for money. I would have done it for any child." Jongh looks at her. For the first time, his penetrating gaze changes slightly. A slight, barely perceptible surprise, mixed with interest, appears in it. He slowly takes the envelope back. "I understand," he says. He pauses, studying her face. Lainie holds his gaze, though it's difficult. "Then let me offer you something else. In exchange, I hear you're looking for a job." Lainie blinks. Learn about you means he knows about her disastrous interview. She doesn't like the feeling that someone has been scrutinizing her life. "Mia needs someone after school," Jongh continues. That nanny is no longer with us. She needs someone who will pick her up from school, spend a couple of hours with her, take her for walks, do activities. She's selective in her contacts. But yesterday, she held your finger. She remembered you." He pauses briefly. "It would be a job, not a gift, a few hours a day. The pay would be more than decent." Lainie feels the floor shift beneath her. She instinctively sinks into a kitchen chair. Work, next to that very girl. Her heart skips a beat at the thought of Mia's quiet, serious eyes. But everything inside her screams danger. This man, Jongh, his demeanor, these two men outside the door, who look less like drivers than something else. The envelope of money he so easily abandoned. The words, "to find out about you." This isn't just the father of a grateful girl. This is a man with connections, with money, with power. She's tried to avoid people like this her entire life. Their world isn't her world. Their problems aren't her problems. She opens her mouth to politely decline, to say that she has a son and that she doesn't have much time. And at that moment, Kade emerges from the room. He'd been quiet behind the door, but now his curiosity gets the better of him. He stands in the doorway, holding his beloved, battered typewriter in his hand, and looks at the stranger with wide eyes. Jongh turns his head. He looks at Kade, not with affection, the way many adults look at children, but appraisingly, seriously. Then he looks back at Lainie. Your son? He asks. Yes, this is Kade. Hello, Kade, says Jongh, his voice softening slightly for a second. The boy silently hides behind the doorframe, then peeks out with one eye, and Lainie sees it. She sees Kade's clean, but slightly worn, pants. She remembers the bill from the specialist. She remembers the rejected interview. She remembers the numbers in the lease. She needs the money. Not just needs it, she absolutely needs it. This man offers her a way out, a dangerous way out, leading into an unknown, frightening world. But a way out. John's serious face. She sees in his eyes not a threat, but calculation and some kind of anxiety she doesn't understand. He truly cares about his daughter. She can feel it for sure. She takes a deep breath. For Kade, for the chance to give him what he needs. What exactly would my responsibilities be? She asks, her voice quiet but clear. Jongh's mouth almost twitches. Not a smile, but something like approval. Pick Mia up from school at 3, spend time with her until 6. Park, reading, walks. She has a special chair for activities. You will accompany her, monitor her safety, and be with her. He emphasizes the last words. I'll explain all the details, routes, and rules later. Payment is weekly, in cash, if that's convenient for you. Lainie nods. She feels a cold, heavy lump settle in her chest. She's making a deal with someone she doesn't know, for someone she barely knows either, for her son. Okay, she says. I agree. Jongh looks at her one last long time, then nods. Tomorrow at 3 o'clock, a car will pick you up from here and take you to Mia's school. Thank you, Ms. Jackson. He turns and leaves. His men follow him. A minute later, the black cars silently disappear from the yard. Lainie stands in the middle of the kitchen, hugging herself. Kade runs up and hugs her legs. Mom, who was that? It's... Lainie searches for words. It's the new employer, baby. She looks out the window at the empty space where cars had just been parked. Tomorrow her life will change. She doesn't know if it's for better or for worse. She only knows one thing. There's no turning back. The car arrives at exactly 2:55. It's not a black SUV, but a dark blue minivan with tinted windows. One of the same men is behind the wheel. He nods silently to Lainie as she climbs into the back seat. They drive through the city, turning into neighborhoods where the houses get bigger and the fences higher. They are driven to a private school, a low, modern building of glass and concrete. A security guard is already waiting at the entrance. He looks at the minivan, recognizes it, and nods. A few minutes later, an assistant emerges from the door, pushing Mia's chair. Mia is wearing her school uniform, a navy blue sundress and a white blouse. She doesn't smile when she sees Lainie, but her dark eyes light up with a quiet but bright light. She waves, a small, discreet wave. Lainie gets out of the car. The driver tells her only, "You have 3 hours. I'll be here at 6. She takes hold of the arms of the chair. The assistant leaves. They are left alone. Hi, Mia, Lainie says. It's good to see you again. Mia nods. She raises her hand and points toward the large park across the street. Her directions are clear. The first hour passes in silence. Lainie pushes a chair along the park paths. She talks about the weather, the trees, the birds. Mia listens, nodding occasionally. She doesn't say a word. Then they sit down on a bench by the pond. Lainie takes an apple and a small bottle of water from her bag. Mia takes the apple, but doesn't eat it. Instead, she rummages through the bag attached to the chair and pulls out a sketch pad and a box of colored pencils. She opens the notebook, and Lainie freezes. The first pages are typical children's drawings. A house, a sun, flowers. But then comes the new ones. Detailed, almost photographic drawings of birds they've just seen. A dog sitting at the entrance to the park. Her hand is confident. The lines clear. Mia flips to a blank page. She looks at Lainie. Then she begins to draw. Her pencil moves quickly across the paper. After 5 minutes, she turns the notebook over. On paper, Lainie. Not a perfect portrait, but recognizable. Her high cheekbones, her hair pulled back into a bun, her soft brown eyes. And next to her image, a small figure of a girl in a chair. And between them, a line connecting their hands. This isn't just a drawing. It's a message. It's wonderful, Mia, Lainie whispers, a lump forming in her throat. Mia looks at her. For she. And for the first time, the corners of her lips twitch in a semblance of a smile. She picks up her pencil again and writes in block letters beneath the drawing, "Thank you." These are the first words Lainie hears from her. She feels something warm and fragile unfold in her chest. This quiet, strange girl has found a way to reach her, and Lainie understands. She's already become attached to her. It's dangerous, but it's already a fact. At 5:30, they return to the meeting point at the school. At 5:50, the minivan arrives, but the driver doesn't take Lainie home straight away. They drive to a large modern house on a hill, Jongh and Mia's house. They enter through tall automatic gates. Inside, the house is spacious and minimalist. There's plenty of light, white walls, and expensive but simple furniture. There's nothing superfluous. No toys scattered across the floor. No family photos on the walls. Jongh is waiting for them in the office. He asks Mia to wait in the next room with the new, stern-looking nanny maid. "Sit down, Miss Jackson," he says, his tone businesslike. He places a piece of paper on the table in front of her. It's a map of the area around the school and their home. Routes are marked with a yellow marker. "These are your walking routes. Only these parks. Only these streets." His finger traces the lines. "Never deviate. Even if Mia asks. Even if you think it's safer." "Okay," Lainie says. "You pick Mia up at 3 o'clock sharp. You return her here or to the meeting place at 6 o'clock sharp. Precision is important. Always." He pauses and looks her straight in the eyes. His gaze becomes heavy, impenetrable. "Mia with anyone. You don't discuss our family. You don't tell anyone where you live or what you do. If a stranger tries to talk to you, you politely decline and leave. If anyone asks questions, you tell me, immediately. This is not up for discussion." Lainie nods, swallowing. The rules are clear, rigid. They reek of paranoia, not just security. But she agreed. "I understand. Payment." He takes a plain white envelope, thick, from the desk drawer. He places it in front of her. "For the first week. From now on, you'll get it at the end of each week." Lainie takes the envelope. It's heavy. She doesn't look inside, just puts it in her bag. "Thank you. Mia seems to trust you." "Appreciate that," he says. And for the first time, his voice sounds not like metal, but like something human. Fatigue. And again, anxiety. "You can go. The car will take you." A week passes. Lainie gets used to the rhythm. Kade goes to kindergarten, and she works with Mia. The girl still barely speaks, but her drawings become their language. She draws what she sees, what she feels. Sometimes she writes a word or two. Lainie strictly follows the route. They only go to 2 authorized parks, always on the same paths. One day, at the far end of the authorized park, they stop to watch the ducks. Lainie feels eyes on her. She turns her head. A man sits on the next bench. He's reading a newspaper, but his eyes aren't on the pages. He's looking at them. At Mia. His gaze isn't curious, but appraising. Cold. He's middle-aged, wearing a casual jacket, but his posture is too composed, too attentive. Jongh's rules immediately pop into Lainie's head. If a stranger tries to talk to you, the man doesn't try to speak. He just looks. Lainie acts quickly. "Eek." She shows no fear. Calmly, she says to Mia, "That's enough ducks for today, right? Time to move." She turns the chair around and begins to roll it down the alley away from the pond, not along their usual route, but along the shortest route to the exit. She doesn't look back, but she feels that gaze between her shoulder blades. Her whole body tenses. Only when they emerge from the park onto a busy, crowded street does she allow herself to steal a glance back. The bench is empty. The man has disappeared. Her heart is pounding. Mia seems to sense something is wrong, too. She sits unusually quietly, clutching her notebook. That same day, when Lainie brings Mia home, she witnesses a scene. Jongh stands in the hallway, in front of the huge window. He's talking on the phone. His back is as straight as a string. Lainie hears only his voice. He doesn't speak English. His language is harsh, abrupt, full of hard consonants. Lainie freezes as she helps Mia take off her jacket. She doesn't want to eavesdrop, but she can't help but hear. Jongh's tone is icy. There's not a drop of the reserved politeness with which he speaks to her. There's only steel, ice, and a hidden, restrained rage. He utters a short, precise sentence. A pause. Then another. Even harsher. Then he turns around. His face is a mask of cold anger. His eyes are narrowed, his jaw clenched. He sees Lainie and Mia. For a moment, something wild, uncontrollable, flashes in his gaze. But he instantly regains control. His face becomes inscrutable again. He quickly says something into the receiver and hangs up. He approaches them. His smile, when he looks at Mia, seems forced, artificial. "How was your day, sunshine?" he asks, his voice soft again. But the tension in his shoulders is still visible. Lainie simply says, "It's fine." She doesn't mention the man in the park. Not now. Not when he's like this. She leaves, taking with her the image of his icy face and the sound of that angry, unfamiliar tongue. Who was on the other end of the line? What caused such rage? These questions now live within her, quiet and disturbing. A few days later, Mia makes an unexpected gesture. After a walk, before entering the house, she rummages through her bag again. She pulls out not a notebook, but a small, brand-new typewriter. It's a toy, but it looks expensive, made of metal. She hands it to Lainie and writes on the pad, "For your boy, Kade." Lainie is shocked. She hasn't told Mia much about Kade, just his name and age. "Mia, that's very kind of you, but you don't have to." Mia insistently pushes the machine into her hand. Her gaze is serious. "Take it." Lainie takes it. She feels an inexplicable sadness and warmth at the same time. "Thank you. He'll be very happy." That evening, at home, she gives the car to Kade. The boy is delighted. He immediately starts rolling it around the floor, making motor sounds. Lainie washes the dishes, thinking about Mia. Then her gaze falls on the toy car lying on the table. Something catches her eye. She picks up the toy. On the bottom, next to the words, "Made in China," there's a small logo. It's not from the toy manufacturer. It's a circle with a stylized image of two crossed keys inside. The design is simple but clear. Nothing special. But it seems familiar to her. Or maybe it was just added later. She shrugs, putting the toy down. But the image of the logo sticks in her mind. Next week, roadwork begins on one of their authorized streets. Half the roadway is blocked, and the sidewalk is blocked by equipment. It's impossible to walk with a wheelchair. Lainie stops. She has to retreat and make a detour. There are two options: go back and take the parallel street they sometimes use, or turn into the nearest alley, which will take them to the same place, but faster. She decides to take a shortcut through the alley. She starts rolling the chair towards him. Mia, who usually watches the road silently, suddenly turns her head sharply. She looks at the narrow entrance to the alley. Her eyes widen. She grabs the armrest of the chair. "No," she says quietly but clearly, her voice hoarse from infrequent use. Lainie stops. "What is it, Mia?" Mia doesn't take her eyes off the alley. She shakes her head. "Wrong way," she repeats. Then she adds in a whisper, looking straight ahead. "Dad said, it's bad there." Lainie freezes. A cold shiver runs down her spine. She looks at the alley. It seems ordinary, quiet, empty, but Mia's tone leaves no doubt. This isn't a child's fear of the dark. It's a warning, learned by heart. "Daddy said so. It's bad out there." Lainie slowly backs away, turns her chair around, and takes the long way. Her mind races. What could be so bad about an ordinary alley? What does Jongh know that she doesn't? A day later, they're in the park. Mia is drawing on her tablet. She has a special drawing program. She's engrossed in creating a complex pattern. Suddenly, the sound of a motorcycle makes her jump. She drops her tablet. It lands on the soft ground near the chair's wheel. "It's okay," Lainie says, bending down to pick it up. The tablet's screen is still lit. There's no picture on it. It displays the interface of some messenger Lainie doesn't recognize. One chat window is open. The messages are in an unfamiliar language, and in the top corner of the chat is a small round icon, two crossed keys. Exactly the same logo as on Kade's car. Lainie's heart skips a beat. She freezes, tablet in hand. Mia lets out a quiet cry and quickly snatches the tablet from her hands. She quickly taps the screen, closing the chat. Her face is pale. She looks at Lainie with frightened, guilty eyes, as if she's been caught doing something terrible. Lainie tries to smile. "It's okay. Nothing's broken." But inside, everything goes cold. The logo, on the toy, on Mia's tablet, in a secret chat. What is this? A game? Or something else? After the tablet incident, Lainie begins to pay more attention to her surroundings, and she notices something. Sometimes in the park, she sees the same man walking his dog, but the dog seems uninterested in the walk, and the man himself glances in their direction too often. On another day, as they walk down a permitted street, a gray car is parked in the same spot 2 days in a row. It's dark behind the window. Jongh's guards, the ones who sometimes follow them at a respectful distance in ordinary clothes, they're different. They watch openly. Their presence must be noticeable. It's protection. These other people, they hide. They observe. One day, Lainie decides to check it out. She doesn't change her route abruptly, but at a fork in the path, she takes a slightly longer route around the fountain. She glances back furtively. The man with the dog stops, pretending to check the leash, but his eyes glance in their direction to make sure where they're going. Jongh's security. Jongh wants his people to be a visible deterrent. These people want to remain invisible. Who are they? Why are they stalking a little girl in a wheelchair? And what's with the crossed keys logo that links the toy to the secret chat? Lainie doesn't tell Jongh about this. Not yet. She's afraid, but she doesn't feel like just a nanny anymore. She feels like a target, or bait. Mia seems to sense her tension. One day, instead of going for a walk, she asks to stay in the playroom at home. She wants to draw. She doesn't draw animals or portraits. She starts by drawing a house, her house. First, the high wall around it. Then the building itself, large, with many windows. She meticulously draws every detail. Then she adds a gate. And by the gate are two figures of men. They stand very straight. And on each of their heads, she draws small semicircles, headphones, walkie-talkies. She looks at Lainie, points to the figures, and then puts her finger to her lips. Hush! It's not just a drawing, it's confirmation. Mia is showing her what she knows. She knows that the house is a fortress. She knows that the people at the gate are guards. And she shares this with Lainie because she trusts her. Lainie looks at the drawing, then at the girl's serious face. She understands that Mia has lived in this world of high walls and people with headphones her entire life. This is her norm. And she, Lainie, has become her window into another world, and perhaps her only true friend. After that day, Lainie sometimes stays in the kitchen for tea before the car takes her home. An elderly Korean man, Mr. Park, runs the kitchen. He's always quiet and polite. One evening, when the house is quiet, he places a cup of green tea in front of Lainie. He sits down slowly across from her. He looks at her with his intelligent, sad eyes. "You're a good woman, Miss Lainie," he says suddenly, his English heavily accented but clear. "A good mother. I see." Lainie is surprised. They've barely spoken. "Thank you, Mr. Park." He slowly stirs his tea. "Mia, she's been smiling more. Since you've been here, she draws you a lot." Lainie remains silent, sensing that he is leading to something. He looks up at her. His eyes become serious, almost stern. "This house, it has many rooms, many windows. Sometimes you can see something through the window, something extra." He pauses, letting his words settle. "Smart people, they see things like that, and they forget. They forget right away." He looks at her intently. "You have a boy, a beautiful boy, Kade. You have to be smart for him. If you see something out of place, you close your eyes and forget. You go your own way. Understand?" Lainie feels a shiver run down her spine. This isn't just advice, it's a warning. The clearest she's ever received. It comes not from Jongh with his icy rules, but from this quiet old man who seems to see everything. Is he talking about the man in the park? The logo? The watchers? He's telling her, don't dig, don't ask questions. Play your simple role. For your safety, for Kade's. Lainie looks into his wise old eyes and sees not a threat, but a sincere warning. And fear. She nods slowly. "I understand, Mr. Park. Thank you for the tea." She finishes her tea, and her hands no longer tremble. But everything inside her is turning over. Now she knows for sure. She hasn't simply entered a rich man's house. She has stepped into a minefield. And Mr. Park has just shown her where the first mine might be. A few days pass after her conversation with Mr. Park. Lainie tries to follow his advice. See less. Mind her own business. She focuses on Mia and Kade. She picks up Kade from daycare. They go home and make dinner. The evening is quiet. Suddenly, her phone vibrates on the table. An unfamiliar number. A landline. She usually doesn't take calls like this, but something makes her answer. "Hello?" Silence. At first, she thinks it's a mistake or an automated message, but then she hears light breathing on the other end of the line. Lainie says again, irritation creeping into her voice. Then a voice sounds. A man's. Low, deliberately calm, without an accent. "Lainie Jackson," he says. He knows her name. "Who is this? Listen carefully. Your help has been appreciated, but now your work is done. Stay away from the house on the hill." Lainie's heart skips a beat. The house on the hill. That's Jongh's house. Everyone knows what I'm talking about. "What? What do you mean? Who are you?" Her voice breaks, but the voice on the phone continues even as an announcer. "You're getting involved in matters that don't concern you. This isn't your war. Leave, while you can, for your son's sake." Click. Connection interrupted. Lainie stands in the middle of the kitchen, clutching the phone in her white-faced hand. The threat wasn't loud. It was quiet, dead, and that made it 100 times more terrifying. They know where she works. They know she has a son. They want her to go away. The next day, Lainie goes to work as if nothing had happened. But inside her, everything is tightened into a tight, painful knot. Every passerby seems suspicious. Every car that drives too slowly sends her into a panic. When she brings Mia home, Jongh isn't in his office. He's in the living room, looking through some documents. He glances at them when they enter. Mia, as always, silently shows him her day's drawing. He smiles, but it doesn't reach his eyes. He looks preoccupied. "Lainie, just a minute," he says, putting the papers aside. He approaches her as Mia rolls back to her room. "We may need to make some adjustments to Mia's schedule in the near future," he says in a businesslike tone. "I'm considering bringing in a full-time companion, one with medical training, for more comprehensive support." The words fall like stones into the silence of the spacious room. Lainie feels her face go numb. I understand," she manages to say. "If you think it's best for Mia," Jongh says quickly, a hint of regret creeping into his voice. "You're doing a great job. It's just that circumstances may change." He says circumstances, but Lainie hears something else. She hears a bell. Stay away from the house on the hill. Maybe Jongh knows something. Maybe he's trying to keep her away to protect her. Or worse, he really has found a replacement for her. She feels the sting of more than just the fear of losing her income. It's something sharper, more painful. Jealousy? Attachment? The thought of some stranger spending time with Mia, picking her up from school, seeing those quiet smiles. The thought physically hurts. "Of course," she says quietly. "Keep me updated." That evening, after putting Kade to bed, she can't sit still. The phone call and Jongh's words keep playing on her mind. Her gaze falls on Kade's typewriter, the one from Mia. It's lying on the shelf. Lainie takes it. She looks at the logo on the bottom again. 2 crossed keys. She sits down at her laptop. She searches for the description. Logo, 2 crossed keys, black circle. The first results are nothing. Pictures from stock sites, some small-town coats of arms. She narrows her search by adding the word company. She finds a mention of a firm called Guardian Lock Industries. It even has a 1-page website with general statements about safety. No address, no phone number. A ghost company. Lainie is almost ready to give up, but something is gnawing at her. She opens the news archive. She searches for Guardian Lock posts again, but this time she's searching for news stories, not websites. And he finds it. A year-old article from the business section of a local newspaper. The headline, "Suspect in Major Financial Fraud Detained." The article is dry, without details, but there is a photograph. It's blurry, taken on the street. It shows a man in an expensive suit being led to a car. His face is airbrushed out, but on his bulletproof vest, over the suit, a logo is visible. A circle, 2 crossed keys, the very same one. The article was quickly shut down, and there are no updates on the case. But the connection is clear. This logo is a mark of people from a world where financial crime is a mild word for something far more sinister. Lainie leans back in her chair. The air in the room feels thick. A toy from Mia, a secret chat on a tablet, a man in custody. It's all connected. And she, with her simple desire to earn money for her son's treatment, found herself right in the middle. A quiet groan awakens her at night. She wakes up instantly. It's Kade. He's lying in his crib, hot as a coal. He has a fever. He's crying, having trouble breathing. Lainie takes his temperature. It's almost 102.5 degrees. She gives him a fever reducer, but it's doing little to help. Her panic is growing. It's nighttime. The ambulance will take a long time to arrive, and she doesn't have a car. She sits next to him, wiping him with a damp cloth, and her heart is breaking with helplessness. The clock shows 3 in the morning. Suddenly, there's a knock on the door. Firm, but quiet. Not on a night like this. Not after that call. Lainie freezes. Then she goes to the door and looks through the peephole. Jongh stands outside the door. He's alone. He's wearing a dark jacket, his face pale from the streetlight. Next to him stands an elderly man with a medical kit. Lainie, speechless, opens the door. We weren't making noise," she mutters, thinking he's here because of some disturbance that didn't happen. Jongh shakes his head. "Mr. Park," he says curtly. "He has a radar for childhood illnesses. He said he had a bad feeling about this. Forgive the intrusion. This is Dr. Kim." The doctor, without saying a word, already walks into the room to see Kade. He gently but firmly pushes Lainie aside and begins examining the boy, listening to him, looking at his throat. Lainie stands next to Jongh in the tiny kitchen. She looks at his profile. He looks through the half-open door, his expression serious but not angry. I didn't call, Lainie says. I know, Jongh replies, but I said that if you or your son needed anything, I keep my word. 15 minutes later, the doctor comes out. Severe pharyngitis, ear infection is starting. The temperature is dangerous. I gave her an injection. Give these medications as prescribed. He places blisters and bottles of syrup on the table. The fever will go down by morning. If anything happens, call. He hands Lainie his business card. Jongh simply nods. They leave as quietly as they arrived. Lainie sits on the floor next to Kade's bed, who is already drifting off to sleep, his breathing even. She is distraught. The man who rules the shadow world, whose guards watch her every move, has just brought his personal physician to her sick son, in the middle of the night, without questions, without reproach. An evil man doesn't act like that. It contradicts everything she's started to think about him. Who is he really? After the night visit, something changes. Jongh treats her a little more gently. Mr. Park slips her homemade cookies in the kitchen, but the tension around the house on the hill only grows. Lainie feels it in her bones. One day, Jongh asks her to come into his office after work. He's standing by the window. Mia wants the book from the top shelf in the office, the green one about birds. He says without turning around, I'm waiting for an important call. Could you get it? The stepladder is in the corner. Of course, Lainie says. Jongh's office is always locked. Today the door is ajar. She enters. The room is austere. A large desk, a computer, bookshelves reaching to the ceiling. She finds a stepladder, places it by the shelf, and finds a green book. As she descends, her gaze falls on his massive desk. One of the drawers is slightly open. Not all the way, just a centimeter. He must have been in a hurry, taking something out. And in that crack, she sees the edge of a photograph. She doesn't want to look. She remembers Mr. Park's warning. But her gaze seems to stick. She takes a step closer. There's a man in the photo. Not Jongh. Another Korean man, slightly older, is smiling at the camera. It's an ordinary photo, but someone has taken a red marker and drawn a thick cross right over the man's face. The cross crosses out his smile, his eyes. It's not just a mark. It's a death sentence. Lainie freezes, the book clutched to her chest. Her heart beats somewhere in her throat. At that moment, a voice was heard behind her. Did you find it? She shudders and turns around. Jongh is standing in the doorway. His eyes immediately move from her face to the half-open desk drawer. His face hardens. Lainie quickly hands over the book. Yes, here it is. He takes the book. His fingers lightly grip the spine. Thank you, he says. His voice is even, but there's a hint of steel in it. You're free to go. She almost runs out of the office. She's sure he knows what she saw, but he says nothing. The next day, during their quiet walk in the gated courtyard, Jongh rarely allows them outside the gate anymore. Lainie breaks down. She looks at Mew, who is drawing a cloud. She thinks about her lonely life before Kade, about the children in the park, who sometimes glance curiously at Mew, but never approach. Mia, Lainie begins quietly, do you have friends? At school or? Mia stops drawing. She doesn't raise her head. She's silent for a long moment. Then she slowly shakes her head. No. And, do you want them to be? Lainie asks cautiously. Mia puts down her pencil. She looks at her hands folded in her lap. When she finally speaks, her voice is so quiet that Lainie has to lean in. Daddy's afraid, Mia whispers. What's he afraid of? Mia looks up at her with her huge, sad eyes. That they'll take me away. Simple and scary. They'll take it. Like a thing, not steal it, not kidnap it. They'll take it. As if it were a normal, expected danger, like rain or wind. Lainie understands. All these rules, walls, guards. It's not paranoia. It's a reaction to a real, concrete threat. Someone wants to take Mia, and Jongh is protecting her as best he can. At any cost. Jongh is leaving for a few days on business. He leaves strict instructions. Don't leave the house. But Mia is bored. She asks to go to the small park 2 blocks away, the one that's still on the permitted list. It's clearly visible, and there are always people there. The guard left by Jongh looks at Lainie grimly, but nods. Quick, 30 minutes. They walk. Mia is happy, breathing a different air, not the home one. Lainie is nervous, constantly looking around. Everything seems calm. They're sitting on a bench, feeding cookie crumbs to the pigeons. Suddenly, Lainie notices movement out of the corner of her eye. Too fast. 3 men emerge from around the corner of the building. They're walking straight toward them. They're not running, but their stride is purposeful, quick. One of them is the same man with the dog from the park. Lainie grabs the arms of the chair to turn and leave, but it's too late. They form a semicircle around the bench, cutting off any escape routes. "We'll take the girl," says the largest one, without preamble. His voice is flat. "Don't resist, and we won't touch you." Lainie feels her insides turn cold with terror, but her body moves of its own accord. She leaps up from the bench and stands between Mia's chair and the men, spreading her arms wide like a shield. "No," she says. Her voice is shaky but loud. "You won't take her." Mia makes a small sound of horror, grabbing the hem of Lainie's jacket. The man in front grins silently. "Heroine. Now you're going to be a heroine." He takes a step forward, his hand reaching out to push her away. At this point, the following happens. A gray van parked nearby suddenly flings open its rear doors. 3 people jump out. They're not the right people. They're Jongh's guards. They move with lightning speed, without shouting. It all happens in seconds. One of the guards punches the man reaching for Lainie in the solar plexus. He doubles over with a gasp. The other 2 pounce on his accomplices. This isn't a fight. This is a professional, brutal neutralization. Precise, crushing blows. The sounds are muffled, but that makes them even more eerie. The attackers clearly weren't expecting such a swift and powerful response. They try to resist, but they're no match for Jonah's trained men. One takes a punch to the jaw and falls. The other retreats, clutching his side. "Let's get out!" one of the attackers shouts, and they, grabbing their stunned comrade, start running, disappearing between the houses. It was all over as quickly as it had begun. Jongh's guards didn't even try to pursue. They immediately formed a living ring around Lainie and Mia, their backs to them, their eyes scanning the area. The older one, the one driving the van, turns around. His face is stony. "Into the house, now!" Lainie, shaking all over, pushes the chair. Mia is crying silently, large tears rolling down her cheeks, but she doesn't make a sound. Jongh returns that same night. Lainie is awake. She's sitting in the guest room where she and Mia were placed after the incident. Mia, sedated by Dr. Kim, is asleep next to her. Jongh enters without knocking. He looks tired to the bone. He's wearing the same suit he had this morning, his tie loosened. He sits down in the chair opposite Lainie. He doesn't shout. He doesn't accuse. But his eyes are cold, like ice deep within. They burn not with anger, but with something far more terrible, an absolute, merciless determination. "They made a move," he says quietly. "That means the next one will be soon." He looks at the sleeping Miu. "Oh," and his face softens for a split second, then becomes steely again. "Outings are canceled. School is remote, with tutors. She won't go anywhere outside this area." Then he looks at Lainie. "And you have a choice. You can take your leave and leave. Now, with double pay." He pauses. "Or you can stay. But if you stay, you're staying here, in this house, indefinitely. You can't wander back and forth. It makes you and your son targets and opens a hole in our security." Lainie looks at him, speechless. "You're asking us to live here?" "I'm offering you refuge," he corrects. "Because after today, they know your face. They know you're close to Mia. You're a weak link, or an ally, depending on your choice." He stands up. "Think about it until the morning. But know this, if you leave, we will never meet again, and you will never see Mia again. If you stay, the rules change. You enter the circle and leave it only when I say it's over." He walks out, leaving her alone in the quiet room, her hands shaking and an impossible choice before her. Should she go into the uncertain danger of the street? Or remain in the gilded cage, at the center of someone else's war? Lainie chooses to stay. She has no real choice. The thought of someone coming for her or Kade, like they did for Mia in the park, is unbearable. The move is quick. They are given 2 adjoining rooms in the guest wing, connected to the main house by a glass gallery. The rooms are beautiful, spacious, with private bathrooms and views of the courtyard garden. They have everything. New clothes for her and Kade, toys, books, a luxury she never dreamed of. But it's a cage, with high walls, cameras, and people silently watching their every move outside their rooms. Kade is initially curious, but soon he starts missing the playground, the other kids. He asks, "Mom, are we in prison?" Lainie doesn't have a good answer. One early morning, while Kade is still asleep, Lainie goes out into the garden to get some air. She passes the glass wall of the home gym and sees him. Jongh is training. He's not just pumping iron, he's hitting the punching bag, striking with such ferocity and precision that it sends shivers down her spine. He's doing exercises that resemble martial arts techniques. He's wearing only gym shorts. And she sees the scars. Many of them. A long, pale scar along the ribs, several short, deep marks on the back and shoulders, a bullet hole on the thigh. This is not the body of an athlete. This is the body of a soldier, or a criminal who has been through a lot. He spots her in the reflection of the glass and turns sharply. His eyes, full of adrenaline and concentration, meet hers. He doesn't cover his eyes. He lets her watch. Then he slowly takes a towel, wipes his face, and his expression becomes inscrutable again. He nods curtly and returns to his training. Lainie retreats. She no longer doubts. She lives in a fortress commanded by a man who has been through war, and she, without wanting it, has become one of his soldiers. Mia is having a hard time coping with confinement. She becomes quiet, painting dark pictures, a house with barred windows, a girl's figure behind the glass. She becomes attached to Kade, whose simple, childlike presence brings a bit of normality to this strange life. One evening, while putting Mia to bed, Lainie notices the girl crying, quietly, into her pillow. "Mia, what happened?" she asks, sitting on the edge of the bed. Mia doesn't answer for a long time. Then she turns to her, her face wet with tears. "Daddy's going to leave, and he'll take me with him, and you'll stay." "What?" "No, darling, we're all here." "No!" Mia whispers desperately. "I heard. He talked on the phone about the big deal, that after it will all be over, and we'll go away. Far away. And you won't be with us?" She sobs, clutching Lainie's hand. "He said clean slate. That means without you." "I know." Lainie hugs her, rocking her like Kade. Her stomach sinks. "Big deal. Clean slate. Jongh is up to something." The end. And his plans clearly don't include an African-American nanny and her son. He's grateful, he's protective of them, but they're a temporary fixture in his world. Once the danger passes, he'll disappear with his daughter, leaving them behind. And Mia knows it. The next morning, trying to distract herself, Lainie takes the children out into the small courtyard garden. It's a safe, enclosed space. Kade runs along the paths. Mia draws. Lainie sits down on a bench under a large Japanese maple. Her foot hits something under the seat. She leans over. A phone lies among the fallen leaves. Not the newest, but sturdy, in a protective case. It's clearly been there for more than a day. She recalls the fight in the park. The attackers retreated here. Someone might have dropped it. She looks around. No one. She quickly picks up the phone and puts it in her pocket. Later, in her room, she studies it. The phone is locked. But when she presses the button, the screen lights up, showing the screensaver. Lainie freezes, a chill running down her spine. The title card is a photograph. A group of men at the bar, smiling, raising glasses. In the center is that same man, the one whose face was crossed out with a red X in Jongh's desk drawer. Here he is alive, laughing, and he has his arm around another man's shoulders. Lainie saw this man too. It's one of Jongh's guards, the one who helped with the doctor that night, the traitor inside the house. And the enemy outside, the same man behind the kidnapping attempt. And this enemy was once close enough to Jongh to take photos with him and his men. Lainie sits on the bed, clutching someone else's phone in her hand, her mind racing. She has evidence. She has information that could be critical to Jongh. But if she shows him the phone, she'll admit to finding and looking at the photo in his desk. He might be angry. He might see it as a threat. He might kick them out or do something worse. But if she remains silent, the traitor among the guards will remain. The enemy will know their weaknesses. The big deal Jongh spoke of could be a trap. And in the end, Mia will suffer. Maybe Kade too. She thinks of the grip of Mia's tiny fingers on hers that first day, of the girl's quiet tears last night, of the look in Jongh's eyes, full of tired determination when he brought the doctor home. She's risking everything, but if she doesn't, she could lose everything she's come to hold dear over the past few weeks, even if that precious something is in a gilded cage. She stands up. The decision is made. She asks Mr. Park to tell Jongh that she needs to talk, urgently. Jongh receives her in his office. He's at his desk, documents in front of him. He looks tired. "Have you changed your mind? Do you want to leave?" he asks first. "No," Lainie says. Her voice doesn't shake. "I found something, and I have to show it to you." She places the phone she found on the table. Then, taking a deep breath, she says, "And I have to confess, that day, when I took the book, I saw a photograph in your desk. A man with a red cross. I'm sorry." Jongh slowly looks up at her. At first, anger flares in them. Dark, swift. His fingers clench into fists. Lainie braces herself for anything, but the anger fades just as quickly, replaced by a cold, sharp attention. He picks up his phone, turns on the screen, and sees the wallpaper. His whole body tenses. He stares at the photograph for a long moment. His face becomes a mask of ice and stone. He places the phone on the table. "Where?" One word. "In the garden. Under the bench by the maple tree, since the attack." Jongh nods. He leans back in his chair, closing his eyes for a second. When he opens them, there's no longer any anger or weariness. Only calculation. "So," he says quietly, "so he's already here. Closer than I thought." He looks directly at Lainie. "You want to know who it is?" "It's your enemy," Lainie says. "And he wants Mia." "Yes," Jongh agrees. For the first time, he speaks to her directly, without understatement. "His name is Soho. He was my brother once. Not by blood, by oaths. We started together." He points to the photo with the red cross. "He took everything from me that could be taken. Money, business, respect. He left me only scars." Jongh runs a hand over his rib where the scar is longest. "And Mia?" Now he understands that Mia is the only thing I have left. My heart. He wants to rip it out, to finish what he started. Lainie listens, and the pieces of the puzzle finally fall into place to form a horrifying picture. This isn't just business. This is revenge. Personal, merciless. "And the man in the photo with him," she begins. "Traitor!" Jongh snaps. "That settles one issue. Thank you." He stands up and goes to the window. "The big deal Mia might have heard about. It was the final meeting. We agreed to exchange what was left of our old business, to go our separate ways. It was an attempt to end things peacefully, but now I see it was a trap. He never wanted peace. He wanted to lure me in and take Mia while I was distracted." He turns to her. "You could have kept quiet. You could have left. But you came. Why?" Lainie looks him in the eye. "Because she was crying. And she said you were going to take her without me. I don't want anyone else to take her." Jongh looks at her for a long moment. Then he nods, once, sharply. "Okay, then here are the new rules. You stay with Mia. Always. Until the very end. I trust you with her more than anyone in this house except myself. You will know the plan. You will be the last line of defense. Do you agree?" It's not a question. It's an offer to join an alliance, to take a side in his war. Definitively. "Yes," says Lainie. "I agree." A tense, ringing calm reigns in the house. Jongh and his trusted men disappear for entire days, planning, marshalling their forces. Mr. Park becomes even quieter. The number of guards dwindles, but those who remain look at Lainie with a different expression, one of silent recognition. Lainie fulfills her role. She is the core of normalcy for Mia and Kade. She teaches them board games. They draw together, watch old cartoons. She creates the illusion of normal life inside the fort. Jongh gives her a brief briefing. He shows her a secret room behind the wall of Mia's closet. A room with a thick steel door, a ventilation system, and a supply of water and food. "If you hear an alarm or my command over the intercom, you take the children and go there. You do not leave until Ish Sonne open the door. Under no circumstances. Understood?" Mia senses the approaching storm. She becomes tenacious, not letting go of Lainie for a single step. Kade, sensing the adult's mood, also becomes quieter. One night, Lainie wakes to the sound of quiet footsteps in the hallway. She looks out. It's Jongh. He's standing by the open door to Mia's room, simply staring at his sleeping daughter. His face, in the light of the nightlight, seems indescribably tired and sad. Then he leaves, not noticing Lainie. The silence becomes unbearable. Everyone waits. The storm comes late at night. First, a quiet siren sounds somewhere deep in the house, then sharp, muffled bangs. Not gunshots, but something like that. Screams, the crash of falling furniture, the sounds of a struggle, thuds, shouts of commands in Korean. Lainie is already on her feet. She bursts into Mia's room and wakes her up. The girl is terrified, but silent, her eyes wide. Lainie grabs her in her arms and runs to Kade. The boy is crying in fear. She drags them both into the dressing room. She presses a hidden button behind a shelf of clothes. The panel slides open. She pushes the children inside the secret room, enters herself, and locks the massive door from the inside. The sound of the lock is a dull, final click. It's quiet here. The sounds of battle are muffled, as if coming from under a thick blanket. The children cling to her, trembling. And then Lainie hears it. Right outside the door, in the closet. Voices. Jongh's voice. Sharp and commanding. "It's clear here! Hold the perimeter!" And another voice. Cold, mocking, with the same accent as Jongh, but smoother, more venomous. The voice from the photograph. Soho's voice. "Jongh, old friend, did you think you could hide your treasure in the wall? I've found all your hiding places. And your traitors." Then the sound of a thud. Bodies colliding. A struggle unfolds just beyond the steel door. Lainie clutches the children to her, covering their ears, and freezes, listening to every sound. Silence. Long, tense. Then a single, muffled sound. Something like a dull thud, and nothing more. Lainie doesn't know how much time passed. Minutes? Hours. There are no windows in the secret room. The children, exhausted by fear, dozed off, huddled close to her. Suddenly, there is a sound. A scraping sound. A knock on the steel door. 1, 2, 3. A pause. Then 2 knocks. This is the prearranged signal. It means it's one of our own. Lainie slowly, with a chilling fear, pulls back the heavy bolt. Opens the door a centimeter. Jongh stands in the doorway. He stands, leaning against the doorframe. His face is bruised, his lip is split, one eye is swollen shut. His shirt is torn and covered in dark, damp stains. He breathes heavily, but stands firm. Behind him, in the dressing room, a man lies on the floor. It's Soho. His hands are bound behind his back with plastic zip ties. He's unconscious. 2 of Jongh's loyal guards stand nearby. Jongh looks past Lainie, into the room. He sees Mia and Kade, who wake up and look at him with frightened eyes. He sees Lainie, who is still holding the door, protecting them. He doesn't say, "It's over." He doesn't say, "We won." He just looks. At Lainie, at the kids. He nods, once, briefly. And in that nod lies the whole story. Gratitude, recognition, the end of a long war, and something else. Something that goes deeper than mere words. His exhausted, bloodied gaze says it better than any words. You are not hired help. You are not guests. You have persevered. You are family now. Lainie slowly exhales the air she feels like she's been missing all night. She lets go of the door and steps forward into the morning light already streaming through the windows of the ruined house.